let us try to understand the poem. O young Lochinvar is come out of the west, through all the wide border, his steed was the best, and save his good broadsword, he weapons had none. He rode all unarmed, and he rode all alone, so faithful in love, and so dauntless in war. There never was a knight like the young Lochinvar. Here in the first stanza of the poem, here it is highlighted the qualities of Lochinvar. The poet described young Lochinvar came from west direction, and in the entire England and Scotland, his high-spirited horse was the best one. He saved his battle sword, which will have a double blade. It shows about his great strength and power using that particular weapon. He used to ride his horse without any weapons, and he was all alone. Mainly in the last two lines of the stanza, the poet described him as so faithful in love and so dauntless in war. There never was a knight like the young Lochinvar. So wonderful lines it described him. He was faithful in love and fearless in war. Lochinvar was a knight. It means a man of a high social position, trained to fight as a soldier on a horse. Even poet described him. There was no one else like him. Lochinvar was known a lot about armed fighting, especially during the wars. Now we have to move to next stanza. He stayed not for a break, and he stopped not for a stone. He swam the Esk river, where ford there was none. But ere he alighted at Netherby gate, the bride had consented, the gallant came late. For a laggard in love and a dastard in war was to wed the fair Ellen of brave Lochinvar. Here, Lochinvar did not stop for break, it means any difficulties, and did not stop his journey due to things which came on his ways like a stone. It means that his journey was restless. He crossed the Esk river by swimming, but really Esk river which had no shallow point, where the river can be crossed on a foot very easily. Even though he could do all this, our hero Lochinvar was too late, because the bride had agreed for a marriage. Lochinvar, a brave, noble-minded fellow, he came late there. In the last two lines, for laggard in love and dastard in war was to wed the fair Ellen of brave Lochinvar. Here the poet Sir Walter Scott listed the qualities of bridegroom. Bridegroom who was lagging in the love and had a mean mentality in war. That type of a person was about to marry Ellen. But Ellen was loved by a brave Lochinvar. Now we have to move to third stanza. So boldly he entered the Netherby hall, among bridesmen and kinsmen and brothers and all. Then spoke the bride's father, his hand on his sword. For the poor craven, bridegroom said never a word. Oh, come ye in peace here, or come ye in war, or to dance at our bridal, young Lord Lochinvar? Here in this stanza, poet clearly described how the bridegroom and bride's father received Lochinvar. Our hero Lochinvar boldly entered the Netherby hall. It means wedding place, where bridesmen, blood relatives and brothers were present. It shows all members of Ellen family were present. Bride father, with his hand on his sword, spoke to Lochinvar. A very interesting thing at this time, the bridegroom stood quietly and said never a word. It shows their cowardliness. And bride's father asked Lochinvar why he had came there, whether he came for a peace or to fight with them, or he came there for a dance and enjoy at marriage party. The next stanza, the fourth one. I long wooed your daughter, my suit you denied. Love swells like the Solway, but ebbs like its tide. And now am I come with this lost love of mine, to lead but one measure, drink one cup of wine. There are maidens in Scotland, more lovely by far, that would gladly be bride to the young Lochinvar. Without doubt, here in this stanza, he lies to Ellen's father to hide his real intention. Lochinvar replies to Ellen's father, since from a long time he loved Ellen and with the intention to marry her, but you did not agree for my request. So my love increased for her like a Solway river, but now I lost my love. So it's like a decline in the tide of the river. It shows that he deeply loved Ellen. Either we can come to know that it is a true reflection of his love for Ellen. Look at the last two lines of the stanza. There are maidens in Scotland more lovely by far, that would gladly be bride to the young Lochinvar. Lochinvar said a lie to Ellen father. I came here with a lost love, and he want to dance and drink one cup of wine. And he told one more thing, that there are many unmarried girls in Scotland who will be happy to marry him. Okay, then next we have to move to fifth stanza. The bride kissed the goblet, the knight took it up. He coughed off the wine, and he threw down the cup. She looked down to blush, and she looked up to sigh, with a smile on her lips and tear in her eye. He took her soft hand, ere her mother could bow. Now tread we a measure, said young Lochinvar. Poet Sir Walter Scott explains how Ellen expressed her love towards Lochinvar. The bride, it means Ellen, kissed the wine glass to express her love towards Lochinvar, and the brave man, Lochinvar, took it and drank quickly and threw it away. At the same time, she looked down with a sigh and looked up with a deep breath and had a smile on her lip. She smiled because Lochinvar entered the marriage hall, and with that tear in her eye, it shows that she cries because she is about to wed to another man. Look at the last two lines. He took her soft hand ere her mother could bar. Now tread we a measure, said young Lochinvar. He took the soft hand of Ellen before her mother stopped him from doing like that way. Now they started to dance, which can be described as a slow and steady dance. That was asked by Lochinvar to Ellen. Now we have to move to the next stanza. So stately his form, and so lovely her face, that never a hall such a gallier did grace, while her mother did fret, and her father did fume, and the bridegroom stood dangling his bonnet and plume, and the bride maidens whispered, 'twere better by far to have matched our fair cousin with young Lochinvar. So he was dancing elegantly and magnificently, and her face was beautiful, very attractive. And we can say that it was a very spirited and beautiful and attractive dance. And that dance was witnessed by Netherby Hall. Ellen's mother was getting scared a little bit, and her father was getting very angry on them. And groom was moving here and there. We can call that they are moving like uncertainty with their hat and feathers. Just to observe in the last two lines, the lines are like this way, and the bride maidens whispered, 'twere better by far to have matched our fair cousin with young Lochinvar. So it gives the meaning that the unmarried girls who were with a bride in the marriage party, they whispered, they said to each other in a low voice, Lochinvar was much better guy for their cousin Ellen. So interesting. Now we have to move to the next stanza. One touch to her hand and one word in her ear. When they reached the hall door and the chargers stood near, so light to the croup the fair lady he swung, so light to the saddle before her he sprang. She is won, we are gone, o'er bank, bush and scar. They will have a fleet steed that follow, quoting Lochinvar. Here in this stanza, Lochinvar gave a clues of his plan to Ellen. Lochinvar held Ellen's hand and said one word in her ear that might be not heard by anybody. And they both ran and reached the hall door. And Lochinvar horse, which was used in a battle, that was standing near to the door. First he swung the Ellen elegantly to sit on a horse, and then he jumped to sit on a horse lightly and quickly on the backside of her. In the last two lines of the stanza, she is won, we are gone, over bank, bush and scar. They will have a fleet steed that follow, quoting Lochinvar. Like this way he won the Ellen, and they moved and passed the river banks, thick bushes and steep rocks. They escaped from there. The Lochinvar says to the Ellen that her family member will follow them with fast horses. We can say the swift horses are following them. Now look at the last stanza of the poem. There was mounting mongrams of the Netherby clan, Fosters, Fenwicks and Musgraves. They rode and they ran. There was a racing and chasing on a canopy lea, but the last bride of Netherby never did they see. So daring in love and so dauntless in war. Have ye ever heard of gallant like young Lochinvar? So they were Scottish family names of the various clans like Grahams, Fosters, Fenwicks and Musgraves, who are the supporting the lord of the Netherby clan. They following them. They chased them on the shelter where they stayed, but they couldn't find the lost bride. In the last two lines, it was very beautifully described. so daring in love and so dauntless in war. Have ye ever heard of gallant like King Lochinvar? It shows that Lochinvar was so daring and very faithful in his love, and even fearless in war. At the end, poet quoted, whether the readers has ever heard of gallant like King Lochinvar? So he was a brave and noble man who respected his love and never left her. At the end, we come to know that Lochinvar is a popular ballad. Poet tells us how in olden days, brave young men in Scotland possessed the necessary dash and pluck to the extraordinary things. Really, his narrative style of the poem fascinates the readers. By poet's gripping action, staggering measure, and imaginative appeal is really fantastic. Give a like to this video and try, if you are new to this channel, subscribe and share this video with everyone. They can be benefit from this just the way you are doing it. Thank you.